You're watching Forsaken Joe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy the story. Let's begin. I was still half asleep when Holly dropped it on me. She was sitting at the kitchen table, a coffee mug in her hand, looking at me like nothing was wrong. "Ben," she started, her voice calm, like she was talking about picking up groceries. "I think we need to take a break." I blinked, trying to make sense of what she was saying. A break? From what? She glanced up at me, her eyes too steady. "From each other. I need some time to think." My stomach dropped, the words hitting me harder than they should have. "What are you talking about?" "I need to see what life would be like with someone else," she said, the casualness in her voice making me feel like a fool. "I'm not saying I don't love you, Ben. I do, but I love him too, and I need a month to figure things out. Him." The word slammed into me like a punch. "Who the hell is this guy?" She didn't flinch. "His name's Derek. I've been seeing him for a while." My throat tightened, and for a second I couldn't speak. What was there to say? She'd already made her choice, and it was clear from the calmness on her face that she wasn't expecting me to put up a fight. "I'm not asking you to wait for me," she added, her voice softer now, almost apologetic. "I just need you to understand." Understand? I didn't understand anything. The woman I'd been married to for 7 years was telling me she was in love with someone else and needed a month to sort things out. I was still standing there, half in shock, when she stood up, kissed me on the cheek, and walked out the door without another word. I didn't know how to react. I wanted to scream, to shout, but I just stood there, frozen. I wasn't sure if I even had a right to be angry. She was the one who had already made up her mind. The decision was made, and I was left standing there in the wreckage, feeling smaller than I'd ever felt in my life. The house felt wrong, like it wasn't mine anymore, even though I'd spent years walking through it. The place we built, the space that had been our life, was now empty. I wandered through the rooms, a little lost, trying to make sense of the noise in my head. Her words kept coming back to me, over and over, like an echo that wouldn't stop. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the spot where she'd sat, the coffee mug still sitting there on the table. It felt like the house was mocking me, like it was quietly waiting for me to process this new reality. I wasn't ready for any of this. But I wasn't going to let her pull the rug out from under me either, not without a fight. I grabbed my phone and called my lawyer, keeping my voice steady. "We need to talk." The meeting was set for later that afternoon, and for the first time since Holly had dropped her bombshell, I started to feel a little more in control, a little less like I was drowning. I walked into the lawyer's office, my pulse still racing, but I held it together. The man I'd been seeing for years, Tom, was already there, sitting behind his desk with a stack of papers in front of him. I told him everything, about Holly, about Derek, about the break. Tom didn't say much at first, just listened. When I finished, he leaned back, folding his arms. "You need to protect yourself, Ben. This isn't a situation you can just let play out." I nodded. "Yeah, I get that." We spent the next hour going over everything. He talked about assets, about separating accounts, about divorce procedures. I wasn't planning to pull the trigger yet, but I needed to be ready. I needed to have options because Holly had just rewritten our life, and I wasn't going to let her do it without me having a say. I made a mental checklist as we went through everything. New bank account, separate assets, start divorce paperwork, but wait to file. I'd sit on it for now. No need to rush into anything, but I had to have control. This time, I'd be the one who got to choose when the hammer fell. By the time I left his office, I felt more centered. The emotional chaos from the morning hadn't gone away, but I wasn't just a guy standing there waiting for his wife to decide what she wanted. I was a man taking action. I had a plan. I went home and immediately made a few phone calls. My brother was the first one to pick up. "Ben, what the hell happened?" he asked, his voice tight with concern. "Holly wants a break," I said, the words still sounding unreal coming out of my mouth. "She's seeing someone else, wants to figure out if she loves me or him." There was a long pause on the other end. "Jesus, man, I had no idea." "I didn't either," I muttered, rubbing my eyes. "But now I'm done being in the dark. I'm taking control of this. You need anything, you let me know, all right?" "I will, thanks, Mike." Next, I reached out to a few close friends, people who'd known us both. I didn't give them all the details, but I made sure they knew what was going on. I wasn't going to let Holly spin her side of the story without anyone hearing mine. And the more I talked, the more the anger inside me started to settle into something more useful. It wasn't about revenge or punishing her. It was about protecting myself, about making sure that when this whole thing fell apart, I didn't get buried by it. As the day dragged on, I started to see the cracks in everything. Little things that should have been red flags, but I'd ignored them. The distance between us, the late nights, the times when I reached out and she wasn't there, mentally or physically. She'd checked out long before Derek came into the picture, and I'd missed it. Maybe I didn't want to see it. I wasn't going to dwell on that now, though. There was no point. I couldn't fix the past, but I could control the present. Later that evening, I opened a new bank account, transferred some of the savings into it, and locked up the joint accounts. I hadn't told Holly yet, and I wasn't sure how I'd break it to her, but when the time came, she'd understand. She'd understand I wasn't going to be the guy who just sat there while she figured things out. And somewhere, deep down, I knew I was already letting go. Holly was gone for the week, and I played the part of the heartbroken husband like it was my job. Every time my phone buzzed, my chest tightened. I'd stare at the screen, pretending that I wasn't waiting for her message, pretending that I didn't care if she came back or not. But I did care. I cared in ways I wasn't ready to admit. I sent her messages throughout the week, always sounding supportive, always playing the part of the guy who was still in it. I'm thinking of you. Hope you're finding the clarity you need. Take all the time you need. It wasn't exactly a message of hope, but it wasn't a demand either. Just a note that showed I still cared, still wanted her back. I wanted her to think I was that guy, the guy who was willing to wait. But I wasn't, not anymore. Her responses were always vague, half-hearted. I'm struggling, Ben. I just need more time. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. It made my skin crawl. I'd read each message over and over, dissecting her words like they held the key to some hidden truth. But they didn't. The truth was simple. She wanted out, and I had to accept that. I just hadn't fully accepted it yet. Still, I wasn't about to sit around, waiting for her to make up her mind. I had other things to focus on, myself for one. I started digging into Derek. I knew her type well enough. She always liked the risky ones, the guys who looked like they had it all figured out, but were just one bad move away from a crash. I went through everything I could find, social media profiles, public records, whatever, and sure enough, there he was. A failed entrepreneur with a string of bad investments, bankruptcies, and a few lawsuits under his belt. I smirked, a bitter laugh bubbling up. Derek wasn't the answer. He was the opposite. The guy had nothing, no future, nothing worth building on. That week, I shifted my focus. I wasn't pretending anymore. I wasn't trying to fix things. I was preparing for what was coming next. I met with my lawyer again, tightening up the details on the divorce paperwork. It wasn't just about Holly anymore. It was about my life, my future. I wasn't about to let her walk out the door with half of what I'd worked for. I also started pulling strings. I reached out to a few people I knew in finance just to get the lay of the land with some of our joint accounts. The last thing I wanted was for her to leave me with a financial mess because she'd decided to find herself with Derek. When I wasn't working on that, I filled the space with other things I hadn't done in a while. I went for long runs just to clear my head. I spent time with my son Aiden, making sure he didn't feel the weight of any of this. I wasn't going to let Holly drag him into whatever mess she was trying to create, and I kept up the charade with her. Always the supportive husband. Every message, every text, every response was carefully crafted. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I know this is hard for both of us. I just want you to be happy, whatever that means for you. She'd respond, of course, with something equally non-committal. I don't know if I can come back yet. I just need more time, Ben. I'm sorry. I'd always say the same thing back. Take all the time you need. I had to play it cool, had to act like I wasn't sitting there, counting the days until she came back, knowing damn well that when she did, nothing would be the same. That week dragged on, but by the end of it, something inside me clicked. I wasn't playing the role of the husband anymore. I was already moving on. Even if she didn't know it yet, I'd made up my mind. When she came back, I wouldn't be the man she left. The power had already shifted, and I was ready to take control. But I wasn't done yet. I still had one last thing to do. I waited. Holly walked through the door like she was stepping back into her life. She was dressed the same way she always did when she was trying to look put together. Casual, but polished. A slight smile tugged at her lips, the kind of smile people put on when they expect a welcome, when they expect everything to go back to normal. I didn't move from the couch. I stayed there, leaning back, one arm over the backrest, a drink in my hand. I wasn't about to get up and greet her like I used to. I wasn't going to pretend that things hadn't shifted while she was gone. She took a step forward, and her eyes locked onto mine. "I've made my decision," she said, her voice full of that quiet confidence she always had when she was sure of something. I raised an eyebrow, waiting for her to continue. My heart was calm. My mind was sharper than ever. I'd been waiting for this moment, but it didn't feel like some big dramatic reveal. I was just watching it unfold, like I was a spectator in my own life. "I've chosen you," she said, as though that should have been the answer I was waiting for. She didn't look at me for confirmation, just said it, as though the choice was a done deal. "I've realized that what we have is real. It's important." The words hung in the air, but they didn't hit me like I thought they would. It wasn't a relief. It wasn't even a win. It was just a statement, a fact she thought would make everything fall back into place. I took a sip of my drink, setting the glass down slowly, deliberately. My eyes met hers, steady, unblinking. "I haven't chosen you," I said, and I could see the moment her smile faltered. The shift was subtle, but it was there. The confidence slipped, just for a second. She blinked, almost like she couldn't believe I'd said it. Her face froze, and she took a half step back. "What? Ben, what are you talking about?" Her voice was tight now, the smoothness gone. The calmness she'd had in the past few weeks was slipping. "I'm not choosing you," I repeated, my tone calm, measured. "I don't think I'm the one who needs to make a choice here." Her eyes widened a fraction, like she wasn't sure if I was serious. You're not choosing me?" she echoed, her voice trembling just enough for me to hear. Her mind was racing now, trying to process what I was saying. She wasn't prepared for this. "No," I said, leaning forward slightly but still sitting back, relaxed. I'm not going to sit here and beg you to come back after you've spent the last month with someone else, trying to figure out if he's your real choice. You were never trying to figure it out with me." I let that hang in the air between us, and I watched her face go from confusion to a hint of panic. She wasn't sure what to do now. She thought she had control of the situation, but I wasn't playing by her rules anymore. Ben," she started, her voice shaky now, but I held up a hand, cutting her off. "You don't get to come back and expect things to go back to normal," I said, my voice firm. "You made your choice. You were already gone long before you left, and I'm not the one who's stuck here waiting for you to come back to me." Her expression flickered for just a moment. A flash of anger, then confusion, then a hint of hurt. It was the kind of hurt that came from not getting what you thought you deserved, not the kind of regret that came from realizing you messed up. She wasn't ready for this. I could see it in the way she tried to catch her breath. "Ben, I don't understand," she said, her voice small now, almost pleading. She wasn't expecting me to stand my ground. She wasn't expecting me to be the one who didn't need her anymore. I stood up slowly, walked over to where I'd set the divorce papers on the kitchen counter. I slid them across the table toward her, watching as her eyes followed the movement. "There's nothing to understand," I said, my voice steady. "I'm done waiting for you to figure out what you want. I've already made my decision." She stared at the papers, then back at me, her face paling as the realization settled in. She opened her mouth to say something, but nothing came out. The power had shifted. She could feel it now, the weight of it in the silence. She had no more control over this situation. Her voice came out in a whisper, barely audible. You're really done?" "I am," I said. "I don't need you to come back, and I'm not waiting around for you to make up your mind. The choice is yours now." She stood there for a moment longer, her expression unreadable, before her eyes shifted down to the papers again. The reality hit her then, and it wasn't the version of this moment she'd imagined. She'd thought she'd walk back in, tell me she was choosing me, and I'd take her back with open arms. But I wasn't that guy anymore, and I wasn't going to be. Not for her. Not ever again. Holly's hands shook as she stared at the divorce papers. She picked them up like they were some foreign object, the weight of them too much to process. Her face was pale, eyes darting between the papers and me, like she was trying to make sense of a joke that hadn't landed. "Ben, no," she whispered, her voice cracking. "You can't be serious. You can't just do this." I stayed silent, watching her panic unfold in real time. She looked at me like I'd just pulled the rug out from under her, but the reality was, she'd pulled it out from both of us long ago. I'd just been too blind to see it at first. "You're really going through with this?" she asked, her voice rising, desperate now. After everything we've been through? After all this time? I exhaled slowly, setting the glass down on the counter. I'm not going through with anything, Holly. I already did. Her eyes widened. What do you mean you already did? I stepped closer, but I kept my distance, letting the weight of the moment settle. I signed the papers weeks ago. The only thing left is for you to sign them. I let that sink in. The words hit her like a punch, her entire body stiffening, the color draining from her face. Weeks ago, she repeated, as if the concept of me having done something so final was beyond her comprehension. She took a step back, shaking her head, almost as if trying to convince herself this wasn't happening. She opened her mouth to speak again, but I cut her off. You spent a month deciding if you wanted to be with Derek, while I spent that time deciding if I even wanted you back, and the answer is no. She took another step back, her eyes darting around the room, like she was trying to process the reality of what I'd said. Her breathing quickened, but she still couldn't find the words. I'm done, I added, my voice steady. I've been done for a while. You can't just walk back in here and expect everything to be okay because you chose me. You were never deciding between me and Derek. You were deciding if I'd still be here when you finally made up your mind. She bit her lip, a flicker of regret passing through her eyes. But there was something else too, something more primal, fear. She could feel it now, the realization that she'd gambled with our marriage and lost, but I wasn't the one who had made that choice. She had. I didn't mean to hurt you, Ben, she said, her voice trembling now. I never wanted to hurt you. Her eyes were wide, and there was a panic in them, a desperation that hadn't been there before. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. The truth was right in front of her. She had already made her decision when she left, and now she was trying to turn the tables, to get me to play along with her script. I reached out, grabbed the papers off the counter, and handed them to her, the corners sharp against my palm. I put them back in her hands without hesitation, my fingers brushing hers for the briefest of seconds. You have 3 days, I said, my voice as cold as I could manage. 3 days to sign them and be done with this. No more games, no more dragging this out. Just sign them and go. Her breath hitched, and she shook her head. I can't just... Ben, please. Please don't do this. I was confused. I didn't... You knew exactly what you were doing, I cut in, and for the first time, I saw the crack in her confidence. The mask was slipping, the act falling apart. You were testing the waters with him, while I was figuring out how to live without you. And now you're asking me to let you back in? It's too late, Holly. It's been too late for a while. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, her eyes wide with disbelief. She took a step forward, and then another. But I didn't move. I didn't flinch. Please, she said, her voice small now, almost pleading. I can fix this. I want to fix this. I shook my head. You can't fix something you've already broken, and you're not going to get another chance to do it again. She stared at the papers in her hands, then back at me. For a moment, I thought she might try to fight me, but the anger never came. Just desperation. She looked completely lost, like the ground had been ripped out from beneath her. I'll think about it, she said, her voice shaking. She was trying to hold on to something, anything, but I knew it was already over. You don't have time to think about it, I said, my voice hard now. You've had your time. 3 days, Holly, that's all you get. After that, I'm filing. It's done. She didn't say anything else. She just stood there, staring at the papers, her face pale, like she was seeing everything for the first time. And maybe, in that moment, she was. But it didn't matter anymore. I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there with the papers in her hands, the weight of everything finally settling in. I didn't need to say another word. I turned and walked to the couch, taking a seat and letting her have her moment. I knew what she was doing, flipping through the divorce papers like she could somehow make sense of them, as though they weren't already a done deal. Her fingers trembled, flipping through the pages faster and faster, as if they might suddenly change. But they wouldn't. She sat down on the edge of the chair, her back straight, trying to hold on to some semblance of control, but it was slipping. I could see it in the way her shoulders slumped, in the way her eyes darted between the papers and me. She wasn't even looking at the words anymore. She was just hoping I'd say something to fix it. Her breath hitched as she finally looked up at me. Ben, please, you can't just end it like this. We can fix it. I want to fix this. Please, I'll do anything. I swear I will. Her voice cracked. The words were familiar, but now they were hollow. I could tell she wasn't begging for forgiveness. She wasn't trying to save the relationship. She was trying to save face, to salvage whatever security she thought she had left. She looked down at the papers again, flipping through them in a frantic, almost desperate motion, like she could will the words to change. But the reality was clear. It was done. I didn't say anything. I didn't offer her a word of comfort. I just let her sit there with her panic, let her stew in the mess she'd made. It wasn't my job to fix it anymore. Her face twisted with a mix of confusion and disbelief. She looked back up at me, her voice trembling. "You're really going to do this? You're really going to take everything? You don't even care about what we had?" I didn't flinch. What we had is gone. You made sure of that when you decided to leave me for someone else. Her eyes filled with tears, but it wasn't the kind of crying I thought I'd see. There was no remorse, no regret. It wasn't about losing me. It was about losing her safety net, the life she thought she could always count on. Her tears were about control slipping out of her hands, not about any real pain. She wiped her eyes, trying to steady herself, but it was no use. She was unraveling. "Ben, I need you to understand. I never meant to hurt you. I never wanted it to be like this." "I know you didn't," I said, my voice colder than I meant it to be. "But it's too late for understanding. You've already made your choice. Now I'm making mine." Her hands clenched around the papers as she wiped her face again. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was trying to figure out how she could turn this around, how she could make me reconsider. But it wasn't about us anymore. It was about her losing control, realizing that everything she thought she was entitled to was slipping away. I sat back, folding my arms, letting her struggle through the realization. The silence stretched out between us, and I let her sit in it. She wasn't going to find any sympathy from me. Not now, not after everything. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she looked at me, her voice barely a whisper. You already made sure I wouldn't get anything, didn't you?" I nodded, slow and deliberate. "You don't get to take anything from this. I've protected myself. I secured the house in my name. I separated the accounts. You're not walking away with a penny more than what you came with." Her breath hitched, and I could see the shock on her face. It wasn't just the divorce she was reeling from. It was the fact that I had been prepared for this, that I wasn't the same guy she could manipulate anymore. She thought she could come back, make me feel guilty, and I'd cave. But I hadn't. I wasn't about to let her use me as her safety net. Her mouth opened and closed, like she was trying to find the right words, but nothing came out. The tears streamed down her face now. But it wasn't sorrow. It was fear. Fear of losing everything. Fear of losing the control she'd thought she still had. I didn't think you'd do this," she said, her voice shaky, barely audible now. "I didn't think you'd really do this. You didn't think I'd have the balls to stand up for myself, did you?" I asked. "You thought I'd just roll over and take it. But I'm not that guy anymore, Holly. I'm not the guy you left behind." She dropped her head, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. She wasn't crying because she missed me. She was crying because everything she thought she could rely on, her comfort, her security, her control, was gone. She'd gambled and she'd lost. I let her sit there for a long moment. She wasn't going to get any comfort from me. She wasn't going to find anything to cling to. Finally, after what felt like hours, I spoke again. "You have 3 days to sign the papers, Holly. After that, I file. And there's nothing left for you here." She didn't respond. She couldn't. She just sat there, lost in the chaos of her own choices. And I let her. I let her feel the weight of what she'd done, because she needed to understand. This time, she wasn't getting out of it. This time, I was the one who had control. The next morning, my phone buzzed on the counter, a familiar sound that immediately set my teeth on edge. I picked it up without checking who it was. "Holly?" "Of course." I opened the message. "Ben, please. Can we talk? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just confused and I don't know what to do anymore. I don't want to lose you." I stared at the words for a moment, not really reading them, just letting the weight of her desperation hit me. She was trying to make me feel sorry for her. She wanted me to open up, to let her back in. But I wasn't going to play that game. I didn't reply. Not then, not after everything that had happened, not after everything she'd already said and done. Her messages kept coming throughout the day, some of them more frantic, some of them apologetic, others full of regret. She threw in the occasional, "I miss you," and "I need you." But none of it mattered. It was all the same tactic she'd been using all along: control through guilt. I deleted them all without responding, not even bothering to read the full content. She wasn't talking to me because she wanted to fix things. She was talking to me because she was scared. Scared of the unknown. Scared of the mess she had made. And deep down, I knew that if I engaged with her again, I'd just be giving her one more chance to pull me back into her web. I wasn't doing that. A few hours later, she tried again. A phone call this time. I let it ring out. I didn't pick up. I wouldn't. By the time the evening rolled around, I was already preparing for the worst, expecting her to push further. I didn't know what else she'd say, but I didn't care. I was already moving on. The decision had been made the moment she chose Derek over me, and I wasn't going to be the one who backtracked now. Then, the text came that was different. This one hit me harder than any of the others. Derek, he's not what I thought. I've tried, Ben. I've really tried to make it work with him, but it's falling apart. He's not who he said he was. I need you. Please. I made a mistake. I almost laughed, though it felt more bitter than anything. She had the audacity to act like her situation with Derek wasn't her fault. She made a choice to leave, and now she wanted me to save her from that choice. But it wasn't my problem anymore. I sat for a moment, reading the message over and over. It wasn't a confession of love or a genuine apology. It was a plea for reassurance, a last-ditch attempt to pull me back into her world. But I wasn't going back. I put my phone down and stared at the wall, letting the weight of her desperation settle into me. She had never been honest with me, not once, not about Derek, not about her feelings, and certainly not about the state of our marriage. Still, something twisted in my chest. A small part of me wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that maybe she could come back, that maybe things could go back to how they used to be. But I wasn't that guy anymore. Not the one who let her walk all over him. Not the one who stood by while she tore apart everything they'd built. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry for losing control. I ignored her for the rest of the night. But by morning, there was something else waiting for me. A message from her mom. Ben, I just heard about everything. I don't know what's going on between you two, but Holly's beside herself. She's devastated. She needs you. Please, for the sake of everything, talk to her. I read it once, twice. It made my blood run cold, the guilt creeping in. Her family. They were all on her side, weren't they? I could already picture the conversations behind closed doors. I wasn't the villain here, though. Holly had made her choices, and they had consequences. I didn't reply to her mom either. Instead, I picked up the phone and dialed my brother Mike. He picked up almost immediately. "You hear from Holly?" I asked, my voice flat. "Yeah, a couple of times. She's all over the place, man. Says she wants to come back, says she messed up. What's going on with you? You okay?" "I'm fine," I said. I can't do this anymore, Mike. She had her chance, and I'm done." He was quiet for a beat. "I get it. I really do. But, man, you need to look at the bigger picture. She's your family, too. You know she's going to be hurting, right?" "I know she's hurting. But I'm done being her safety net," I said. "And I'm not looking back." Mike didn't say anything else. I wasn't looking for approval, and I wasn't looking for pity. This was my decision, and I wasn't second-guessing it. A few hours later, I heard from Holly again. She texted me something short, but to the point. "I've lost everyone, haven't I?" It was the first time I saw any real recognition in her words. She wasn't just pleading for me to take her back anymore. She was seeing the reality of what she had done. I didn't reply. Because the truth was, yes, she had. She had lost everyone. And now, so had I. I wasn't surprised when the knock came. I'd been expecting it, even though I hadn't really known when. Holly wasn't done, not yet. She'd been texting, calling, trying to reach out in any way she could. But this time, she showed up in person. I took my time answering the door. When I finally did, I didn't say a word. I just stood there, watching her, letting the silence hang in the air between us. She looked different, vulnerable, tired. Her eyes were red from crying, her makeup a little smudged. She was a far cry from the confident woman who'd left with Derek a month ago. But I didn't feel any sympathy for her. Not anymore. "I need to talk to you, Ben," she said, her voice shaky but insistent. "Please." I didn't move aside to let her in. I wasn't in the mood for any more games. "Talk," I said, my voice as steady as I could make it. She stepped forward, as though she expected me to let her through. But I just stood there, arms crossed. She hesitated, taking in the space, the distance between us. I wasn't offering her comfort. I wasn't offering her anything. "I'm sorry, okay? I messed up," she began, her voice breaking as she spoke. "I should have never done what I did. I never meant to hurt you, Ben. I was just confused. I didn't know what I wanted, and now I see it. I see what I had with you." I didn't move, didn't react. I could feel my anger bubbling just beneath the surface, but I was done letting her see it. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done, the depth of her own mistakes. She had to feel this. She was pleading now, her hands shaking as she reached for me. "I want to fix this. I choose you, Ben. I've always chosen you. I made a mistake with Derek. He's not who I thought he was, and I cut her off, my voice calm, deliberate. "You don't get to choose me anymore, Holly. You forfeited that right when you decided to test the waters with Derek. You don't get to come back and act like everything's fine now because you've changed your mind. You made your decision, and now I'm making mine." Her eyes widened as the words hit her. For the first time since she'd come in, I saw the crack in her armor. She was no longer confident, no longer sure that I'd take her back. She looked defeated. "I was wrong," she whispered, her voice small now, barely above a whisper. "I was so wrong. I didn't mean to lose you. I swear I didn't." I looked at her, the anger simmering under my skin, but I wasn't going to let it out. Not now. Not when I knew this was the end. "It's too late, Holly. You had your chance, and you blew it. I'm not going to be the guy who takes you back after everything you've done." Her hands gripped the edges of her coat, as if she could hold herself together that way. "Ben, please," she said, her voice desperate. "Please, I need you. I need you to forgive me. I can't lose you." I stepped back, not letting her close. "You already did, and I'm not going to be your fallback option. I'm not going to be the safety net you only reach for when everything else falls apart." Her face crumpled. She was breaking down now, her tears coming faster. "Please, Ben," she begged. "I'll do anything. I swear I'll do anything to fix this." I shook my head, watching her crumble. She wasn't sorry for what she'd done to me. She was sorry for the life she thought she could control slipping away, and I wasn't about to give it back to her. 3 days, I said, my voice cold. "You've got 3 days to pack up your things and leave. After that, I'll file the papers. It's over." Her mouth opened as if to protest, but the words died on her lips. She didn't know what to say. There was nothing left to say. "You don't get to argue with me anymore, Holly," I said, my tone final. "I've made my decision. You made yours. This is where it ends." She tried to speak again, but nothing came out. She just stood there, her shoulders shaking, tears streaking down her face. The woman who had once been so sure, so confident, was now a broken version of herself, caught in the wake of her own choices. I didn't feel sorry for her, not anymore. I opened the door just enough to signal that she needed to leave. 3 days, Holly. That's it. After that, you won't have a place here anymore." She looked at me, her eyes pleading, but I didn't flinch. I didn't move. She had nothing left to hold on to. "Goodbye," I said, the word hanging in the air between us. I closed the door, the sound of it locking behind her signaling the end of everything we once had, the end of our marriage, and the beginning of my new life. A few weeks passed, and the weight on my shoulders started to lighten. At first, I didn't even realize how heavy it had been. But now it was like breathing again after holding my breath for too long. I reconnected with a few old friends, people I hadn't seen in years. We grabbed drinks, caught up on life, and talked about everything and nothing. For the first time in ages, I wasn't talking about Holly or our failed marriage. I was talking about me. I laughed. I didn't have to worry about someone else's emotional baggage dragging me down. I even started dating again. Nothing serious, just a couple of casual meetups. It felt weird at first, but in the best way possible. I could smile, joke around, and not have to keep an eye on whether I was about to be disappointed by someone's half-assed apology. Dating wasn't about fixing anything. It was just about enjoying myself, something I'd forgotten how to do when I was wrapped up in Holly's drama. Aiden, who had already figured out what had happened, was more supportive than I expected. He wasn't exactly thrilled by the whole situation, but he got it. He didn't hold back his thoughts either. "Dad, seriously, Holly made a huge mistake," he told me one night while we were watching TV together. He was 11, but he had a way of cutting through all the bullshit. She's the one who left. She didn't want you, so don't feel bad. I think you're better off. I had to chuckle. Aiden was right in a way. He wasn't wrong about how messed up it all was, but hearing him say it like that, without any of the adult nonsense, made it easier for me to see the truth too. I was better off. A few more weeks went by. I kept living my life. Things started to feel easier, lighter. I hadn't realized how trapped I'd felt until I wasn't trapped anymore. The small victories piled up. I went for runs without feeling like I was running from something. I started working on some personal projects I'd pushed aside for years. I felt like I was reclaiming the pieces of me I'd forgotten existed. As for Holly, she tried. I heard about it through mutual friends at first. She was putting on a show, trying to make everything look perfect. Her new life, her new image, her new start. But no one was buying it. Not anyone who knew her. Not anyone who knew us. She even reached out to me a few weeks after the dust had settled. Her message was simple. Can we talk? I miss you. Please. I didn't even think twice. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I had nothing left to say to her. I had nothing left for her. She had made her choice, and now I was living mine. I wasn't interested in going back to the past. I was moving forward, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free.